How you guys doing? You good? Hey, just real quick, let's just be honest, okay? How many of you have an ungodly amount of coffee in your system this morning? Or am I the only one? Am I the only one? Okay, great. If I start twitching up here, it's gonna be Holy Spirit or caffeine. I'm not sure which one. Hey, so we know the difference between the relationship with cause and effect, don't we? Like, one thing happens or something is done which causes something else to happen. Cause and effect. The former makes the latter happen, right? For instance, if you're driving 80 in a 40, what's gonna be the effect? What's the effect? Yeah, you're gonna get a salty ticket, right? Or trading for Russell Wilson, the hoped for effect will be what? Okay, all right. I'm giving you your chance, Bronco fans. You gotta be more confident about this. Let me get one more. Guys, if your wife catches you unloading the dishwasher or cleaning up dinner or vacuuming, if she catches you doing that and nobody asked you to do it, you just took the initiative on your own to do that, you know what the effect can be, right? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Doug. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your wife on the way home, all right? Some of you are like, wait, that works? I'm here, yes. I'm trying to help you out. We understand the relationship between when we do something or something happens, then an effect will happen. We get that. But is it fair to say that there might be some things in life that we underestimate when it comes to cause and effect? Okay, is it okay to make the assumption that we don't always understand, or maybe we underestimate what the effect might be from us doing something or letting something happen or not doing something? I mean, that's been one of the subtle themes that's been woven throughout this series, that when we deep six stuff that we shouldn't, when we bury stuff deep down because we don't want to deal with it, or maybe we don't want to acknowledge that it's even there, or maybe we just hope that it will go away and then that won't cause us any problems anymore. When we do that, when we deep six things that we shouldn't, they end up deep sixing us. Like shame, grief. Last week, Tim hit on pain. Those things will deep six you and it will cause an effect that you didn't think was going to happen. Shame is a great storyteller. And if you bury your shame, it will tell you a story about you that's not true. Now, guilt feels like you did something wrong, but shame will tell you you are something wrong. It's a big difference. Or grief. We've all experienced grief because we've all experienced loss. There is always a level of grief with any kind of loss that you experience. But if you bury down your grief, it ends up taking you down with it, and it holds you back. Or pain. We love to deep six our pain. Let me just bottle up. I'm gonna keep it inside. Let's just move on and not deal with this. I got a friend who's a counselor, and he says that if you don't deal with your pain will deal with you. He's saying if you deep six your pain, it's gonna deep six you. Cause and effect. And there's one more that I wanna throw out there. Anger. I just see anger destroying individual people, destroying relationships, destroying groups of people. I mean, we're all seeing that right now in real time, aren't we? The destructive power of just relentless anger. So to close out this series today, and as your pastor, I just want to walk through this one. I want to talk through this one. Because anger can get a bad rap. It actually can. Like whether we realize it or not, we just assume that anger in and of itself is a bad thing. That if you're angry, then something must be wrong with you because you're angry. But anger's a natural emotion. We've all experienced it. I think Webster defines anger as the strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or even hostility. So let's just get everything out on the table. Let's be honest for a second and prove that we're all on the same page. Raise your hand if you have ever experienced a strong feeling of annoyance. Raise your hand. Yes. Some of you might be annoyed that I'm asking you to do this right now. You are proving my point. Thank you. All right. Raise your hand if you've ever felt a strong feeling of displeasure. Look around the room. And raise your hand if you've ever, be honest, felt a feeling of hostility? Yeah, we all have. Anger is a natural emotion. We've all experienced it, and by itself, it's not bad. Anger in and of itself isn't a bad thing. What can be problematic are the causes for our anger and then what we do with it. Anger seems to be the choice emotion of the day, does it not? I mean, you could go around the world searching, and you're gonna find anger a whole lot easier than you're gonna find peace. Why? Like, why is everybody so angry? Maybe you're angry because of what's going on in Ukraine. Totally get that. Or maybe you're angry because of gas prices. Or maybe you're angry because of people driving in the left lane that won't move over. All right, so y'all can relate with me? Good. Sometimes I feel alone up here. Or maybe you're angry at the other side of the political aisle, whatever side that is. Maybe you're mad at your boss. Maybe you're upset because of something that's going on with your spouse, or because one of your kids is being messed with, or maybe you're just upset because somebody disagreed with you. Why are you angry? Or why have you been angry? Remember, anger itself is not a bad thing. What can be bad are the reasons for our anger and then what we do with it. So when you feel yourself getting angry, you're gonna feel it. It's an emotion, you'll feel it. When you feel yourself getting angry, you gotta figure out what the cause is. Is this a righteous anger or is it a selfish anger? Because there's a very big difference between the two. There's a difference between a selfish anger and a selfless one. Should we be angry when innocent people in Ukraine are killed? Should we be angry about that? Yeah, absolutely. Should we be angry if somebody doesn't live up to my driving standards? No. 9 o'clock said yes. Never mind, yeah. You guys are smart. Should we be angry if somebody's messing with our kids? Yeah, absolutely. Should we be angry if somebody disagrees with you? No. Should we be angry if someone's being abused? Yes. We should be angry at the things caused by sin and injustice. But so often, we just focus on other people's sin and not our own. Like, we can get really mad about other sin and other injustices happening because of other people, but I want to ignore my own sin. And it's a whole lot easier to focus on other people's stuff, other people's screw-ups, other people's sin, but I just went, well, let's not talk about me. I've got to be just as angry with my own individual sin first before I can ever be angry at sin that hurts other people. And just like everything else, Jesus is the model when it comes to anger. Jesus got mad. Maybe you know that. Maybe that's new to you. Maybe that even seems kind of hard to believe or even contradictory because, wait. Jesus was supposed to be loving, so how could he be angry? How can someone who's loving be angry? That doesn't make sense. Or turn the other cheek. Like, there's no room for anger with that, right? Actually, there is. So there's this, it's a misspoken perception about Jesus. That he was soft. That he was this passive guy. That he could not experience anger. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. Since it's a natural emotion, he experienced it just like all of us do. And anger is not the opposite of love. In fact, a selfless anger can actually validate love. Here's what I mean. If somebody's messing with my daughter, or messes with my wife, or messes with my boys, if that's happening, if somebody's messing with my family, am I gonna be angry about that? You better believe it, I'm gonna be angry about that. Why? Like, why would I be angry if somebody's messing with my daughter or my boys or my wife? Why would I be angry? Because somebody I love is being messed with. Somebody I love is being sinned against or being hurt or an injustice is occurring. My anger comes out of my love. In fact, if you looked at it the other way and I didn't get upset about that, if I didn't care about it, you could look at me and say, Matt, do you really care? I mean, your 9-year-old daughter's being messed with and you're just like, it's not that big of a deal. Do you really love her? Jesus flipped tables. You gotta be pretty upset to do that, right? Man, that's pretty intense. He flipped tables and made a whip to chase people out of the temple in Jerusalem. So next time when you're thinking, hey, what would Jesus do? Flipping tables might be an option. Now, before you get really excited about that and think you got a green light, we got to know why he did that. Like, what was the cause of his anger? So in the temple in Jerusalem, this is the religious center for God's people. In the temple, there was a courtyard for the Gentiles. A Gentile was anyone who wasn't a Jew. So unless you're a Jew, you and I would be considered Gentiles back then. So in this courtyard was for all of the people from all different nations. Anyone who wasn't a Jew, they could come to this courtyard in the temple and pray and worship God. It's a pretty awesome spot. Well, people in Jerusalem figured out how to take advantage of that. Now, at this point in history, this was still under the sacrificial system. That would all end when Jesus would become the ultimate and final sacrifice on the cross, but that hasn't happened yet. So people are still under the sacrificial system. And if you were traveling at any distance to come to the temple to worship, you weren't gonna bring your own animal with you for sacrifice. It's just too much of a hassle, too long of a journey, too hard. So what you would do is you would buy something there. You would buy an animal there. Well, people in Jerusalem knew that you had to do that. They knew that you weren't gonna travel with your own animal and that you had to buy one there. They had the market cornered, so they charged you whatever they want. They just jacked up the prices. I mean, it's basically price gouging was what was happening. It's kind of like if you go skiing and they make you spend $14 for a slice of pizza because you got no other option. Like that's the same thing. But then there was more to it. There was basically a little unspoken scam going on because there was also money exchange that had to happen. There was a designated temple currency. So if you wanted to buy one of these animals for sacrifice as an act of worship, if you wanted to give as an act of worship, you had to use the designated temple currency. Money changers knew this. You got people from traveling all over the known world, different countries, different cities, bringing their own currency. They would have to come in and exchange it for the temple currency. So the money changers, they just jacked the exchange rate up, way up. They're basically stealing. And to top all of that off, they put these tables for extortion and these animal stalls where you would have to buy a crazy overpriced animal. They put all of that stuff right in the middle of the court of the Gentiles, right in the designated spot for prayer and worship. They moved out prayer and worship and they brought extortion in. It would be like a Ukrainian refugee making it to Poland. And they get to Poland and they want to buy bread and milk. And they go to Polish shops to buy this bread and milk. And the Polish shop owners are like, yeah, we got bread and milk. We got plenty. For you, it's $50 for a loaf of bread. It's $30 for a gallon of milk. No supply issues at all, but we know that you have no other option. If you heard about people from Ukraine going to Poland and having to pay $50 for a loaf of bread just because they could do it, would that make you mad? Yeah. That's why Jesus is mad. That's why he's flipping tables. Jesus was angry because sin and injustice was hurting other people. But today, we tend to flip tables when we get our feelings hurt. Or when somebody criticizes us. Or when someone disagrees with us. Or we start flipping tables today when we get offended. It just seems like people are so easily offended today, doesn't it? About anything and everything. In fact, you will be encouraged to be offended. Like the world will tell you, be offended about this and about this and about this. Oh, you definitely want to be offended by that. Basically, you're told to be offended by everything. But the problem with that is, if you're an offendable person, you're always going to be angry. The more easily you are to be offended, every little offense is going to be this deposit of anger that you take in. And what happens with that is deposited anger always comes out with more intensity when it's withdrawn. So you gotta know, when you're angry, you gotta know what the real cause is so that you don't experience and so that other people around you don't experience an effect that isn't good. Ask yourself a couple questions. Ask, should I be angry about this? Not am I angry about this? Should I be angry about this? And if you don't know, ask someone you trust to tell you the truth. Kelly has had to call me on this more than I would like to admit. I'm a naturally passionate person, as you probably have figured out yourself. And I've got a strong sense of justice. So when something is right, I want to celebrate it and reinforce it. And when something is wrong, I want to go after it. And because of that, there's times where I can run a little hot. And Kelly will call me on that. She'll say, well, like, why are you so upset about this? It's really not that big of a deal. Why are you so upset? All this is doing is robbing you of mental and emotional space. And you know what? Like, I don't want to say she's always right, but I don't think she's in here right now, so I can say that. She's right. She is. So whenever you're upset, you got to ask yourself, should I be angry about this? And here's the thing, at least this is what I've learned. Most of the time, the answer is no. So then ask yourself, am I really angry about something else? My role as a pastor, there are times where people can be very upset with me. And what I've learned over the years is that the majority of the time, I'm not the cause of their anger. Something else is. I just have become the target for it. And that's okay. It's part of the territory. But when I see somebody upset, the first thing I'm thinking, and then I will ask them this, is, why are you really upset? What happened to you? What happened to you? Because this thing that you're upset about, it doesn't warrant this level of anger. You are disproportionately upset about this thing that you're talking to me about or pointing at me for. So what really happened to you? Why are you really angry? What's the thing below the thing? Now, you might be upset because something shady happened at work. But you're taking that anger because of what happened at work, and now you're focusing on your kids. Because kids do stuff. They do stuff that frustrates us. They're kids. But you're taking the anger from over here and you're targeting it on your kids. Or maybe something unjust happened to you. And whatever that thing was, this thing over here, you're taking it over here, the anger from over here, and you're putting it on all your relationships over here. They become the target for your anger. You might have something legitimate to be angry about. But if you've taken that anger and put it on something that you don't need to be angry about. So then ask yourself, is my anger revealing some idols? Idols are deceptive. And they're not just little gold statues that Indiana Jones is looking for either. Idols are anything other than Jesus that sit on the throne of your heart. They hold your adoration. They hold your affection. It's what you worship. That could be another person. That could be status. That could be stuff. That could be an ideology. That could be a movement. You can turn anything and anyone into an idol, and we easily do it without even realizing it. What anger can do is it can reveal to you idols that you didn't know you have. Because whenever one of your idols gets questioned, challenged, or criticized, we don't like that at all. We don't like our idols to be questioned, challenged, or criticized. And that provokes anger. Let me give you an example. I hit on this one a lot. But when someone is driving in the left lane below the speed limit and won't move over, even though they got a line of cars behind them, it drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts. I'm way too impatient with that. It's part of my sanctification, but it makes me mad. But it also is revealing an idol that I have. My own comfort and convenience. Because this person's driving, they're challenging my time, my convenience, my comfort, and it's making me mad. Anger is revealing my own selfishness as an idol. Now, let me give you another example, and this might rub you the wrong way. Can I go here with this one? All right, I'm going to anyway. For some of you, hear me on this. For some of you, your idol might be the Republican Party. And for some of you, your idol might be the Democrat Party. Now, I don't care who's in the White House or in the Senate or in the House. We all want good leadership there, right? Unanimously, everybody wants good leadership in government positions. We all want that. But the level of anger and disdain today for the other side of the political aisle, whatever that other side is, guys, that can't happen in the church. That cannot happen with individual Christians. We have to be better than that. We have to be different from that. Now, have your own opinions and political convictions. Absolutely, that's a great thing. Please know what's going on and care about what's going on. But we cannot have that same level of anger and venom and hostility that exists today. If that's happening with you, you might want to pay attention to that. That might be revealing an idol that you have. And I say all of that to set up Ephesians 4:26. This is Paul. He says, and don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry, for anger gives you a foothold to the devil. Other translations say it gives the opportunity to Satan. Now, this is the Apostle Paul writing to the church in Ephesus. Ephesus was a city. And he's talking about the don'ts with anger. And the reason why he's saying don't do this with anger is because of the context that covers all of chapter 4. Here's what he's getting at. Here's why he's talking about anger. Verse 1, therefore I, a prisoner for serving the Lord. Paul got thrown into prison. He's writing from prison because he told people about Jesus. A prisoner for serving the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of your calling. For you have been called by God. Always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. Make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace. For there is one body and one Spirit, just as you have been called to one glorious hope for the future. There is one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father, who is over all and in all and living through all. Paul is talking about unity. He's talking about unity in the church. He's talking about unity in our relationships. So he says, don't sin by letting your anger control you. Don't let the sun go down on your anger, because it just gives Satan an opportunity. Being controlled by anger, letting the sun go down. That's another way of saying holding on to your anger. It's another way of saying depositing it. It's another way of saying deep sixing your anger. If we do that, it just gives the devil an opportunity. An opportunity for what? An opportunity to divide, derail, disrupt, and destroy. Being controlled by anger, deep sixing your anger, all that does is give Satan an opportunity to divide. I mean, is it easy to be, Paul said, humble, patient, and gentle? Is it easy to be those things if you're controlled by anger? No, I don't think so. If you figured that out, I'll give you the mic, you come up and preach. I don't know how you do that. Like, is it easy to give people grace? Give people slack when they screw up or they come up short? Is it easy to do that if you're controlled by anger? No, not at all. Is it easy to be united if you're controlled by anger? No. So make no mistake about this. Satan hates what's happening here. He hates what's happening in our church. He hates that we're here to worship Jesus. He hates that there's peace and joy here. He hates that people are hearing the truth. He hates that we hang out in the lobby and talk and laugh and encourage each other and connect. Hates that. He hates that groups are multiplying. He hates that people are being changed by the power of God's word. He hates that people are pointing their kids to Jesus. He hates that your marriage is getting stronger. He hates that you're growing in your faith. He hates the fact that you're trying to live a life that honors Jesus and the gospel that saves you. He hates everything that's unified in our church, and he will do anything he can, take any opportunity he's got, especially if we give it to him. He'll take it to disrupt, derail, destroy, and divide. And deep sixed anger, being controlled by anger, is one of his favorite tools to do that with. He knows, he's not dumb, that if we're controlled by anger in our church, that if we've got deep sixed anger here, he knows that if you're controlled as an individual by your anger, he knows that will divide, that will destroy relationships, that will derail maturity and growth, and the truth and hope and faith and grace of the gospel will not be seen by other people who need to see it, because all they will be able to see is the division caused by anger. So let me ask you two questions. Are you controlled? Or are you in control? Like when it comes to anger, are you controlled by it or are you in control of it? Again, it's a natural emotion. You can't control feeling angry, but you can control what you do with it. Recognition is the first step. You gotta recognize, look at your reaction. You gotta recognize the cause of your anger. Because once you know what the cause is, then you can know what to do with it. Is this something that I should be legitimately angry about? If the answer is no, let it go. Just let it go. Don't bury it either. It's not worth it. But if the answer is yes, there is legitimate anger to this, then act appropriately and in control. So maybe you have to have a conversation with someone. But before you have that conversation, maybe you need to write out everything that you're angry about and what you need to say. That way it lets the emotion out before you have the conversation. It's a way to be in control. Or maybe you need to get other people involved to protect someone else. You see some injustice going on, don't be a cowboy and just go after it. Well, Jesus made a whip. Easy, you're not Jesus. Let's just pump the brakes. Be in control. Get other people involved to protect and help someone. Maybe you need to physically work it out. Anger is a high emotion. It's a high energy emotion. Scientifically, we know that you can actually store anger in your body. So a way to get that out is physically. Maybe for you, it's playing sports or lifting weights or going on a hike. It's a way you can physically work that emotion out. It's a way for you to be in control instead of being controlled by it. There could be other things too. Just get creative. Think about this. All of those are different ways to empty your anger account. Because if you have all this kind of built up anger in you, the more built up it is inside, the slightest offense will just send you over the edge. You ever been around someone that's done that? Maybe it was you. This person they done lost their mind. And I don't know what this was about. Holy cow, why did they act like that? Why did they react that? Geez Louise. It's because they had deep six anger. It built up. But not letting the sun go down on your anger, all that does is empty the account. So you're not storing it up. And if you have an empty account, then you can go through the greatest offense much more smoothly. Now, it doesn't mean there won't be pain with it. Absolutely will be pain. If somebody sins against you, if somebody does something unjust against you, yeah, that's painful. But there doesn't have to be anger to go along with it. Anger just makes pain worse. Just makes pain worse. Jesus experienced incredible pain because of wrongdoing. The stuff that happened with his betrayal, the crucifixion, all the stuff that went with that, that's painful. Somebody close to him just flat out betrays him. His closest friends bail on him when he needs them the most. He goes through an illegal trial. The trial that would happen at Caiaphas' house the night before Jesus is crucified, under Jewish law, it was illegal what they did. It was illegal. They even had people stand up on the stand and just flat out lie. They couldn't even get the testimony right. The stories were contradicting each other. Then he gets mocked. Jesus experienced the most injustice anyone could ever experience, but he didn't get angry. Why? Perspective. Jesus was focused on God the Father and on you. He was focused on him and them. Them is everybody else. You feed whatever you're focused on. You will feed whatever it is that you're focused on. If you're focused on your anger, you'll feed your anger. If you're focused on you, if you are your focus, then you will so easily be angered. And we know this, but let me remind you, the world does not revolve around you or me. My parents told me that all the time. The world does not revolve around what you want, what your preferences are, what makes you comfortable. It does not revolve around you and I. We all know that, but sometimes we don't believe it. Sometimes we don't believe it. So when you experience something that proves the world does not revolve around you, you're going to get angry if your focus is on you. Jesus was hurt by insane injustice and unfair things. He had raw, just unfiltered hatred directed at him, but he never got angry because he was focused on God the Father and on everybody else. He knew that God was in control. So when it comes to anger, losing control can actually be a sign that you don't believe God is in control. Like if you take whatever it is that you're losing control over and just pull back the layers, eventually you're going to get to a spot where you realize, I don't believe God's in control. Well, I'm really upset about gas prices. Okay, nobody wants to pay more for gas. I get that. Why are you really upset? Well, because that's going to affect our vacation plan 6 months from now. I don't know that we can afford to go to Disney now. Okay, well, that's disappointing, but why are you getting upset about that? Well, it's because I just believe that money is my ultimate savior. And that money's in control, that God's not in control. So when I feel like money's not stable, when it's not secure, then I'm going to lose control. I don't really believe that God's in control. Like if you break it down, man, this is a moment where I'm just preaching to me and you get to listen. But if you really break it down, when you lose control, eventually you're going to get to a spot where you believe that God's not in control. So are you controlled by anger or are you in control of it? What you're focused on is going to give you a good indication. And then the second question you got to ask yourself is, have you deep-sixed anger? King Solomon says this in Ecclesiastes 7. He says this, be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools. Lodges in the heart of fools. Solomon just said, if you deep-six your anger, you're a fool. That's what he said. Not feel angry, but if you bury it. And we bury our anger a lot because we think that's a way to be in control. I'm just going to bury it down. I don't have to deal with it. It won't cause problems down there. It feels like burying our anger makes us in control, but in reality, all that does is let your anger control you later. It's going to happen. He says, don't lodge it in your heart. Don't give anger residence. Like, would you bring something into your home that was divisive and destructive? Like, would you bring a bomb into your house and just set it on your coffee table? No, you're not going to do that, right? You're going to take that to whoever you can that can take care of that. You're going to call in help. You're going to do everything you possibly can to defuse that live bomb. Anger is the exact same way. Deep-sixing it, giving it residence in your life is just as dumb as putting a live bomb on your coffee table. Eventually, it's going to blow up. And it's going to hurt you, and it's going to hurt everybody around you. So be angry about the right things. Flip tables over the right things, not the petty things. And let's just be honest. A lot of times we get that reversed. We flip tables over petty stuff all the time. And that's exactly what the enemy wants. That's what Satan wants. He wants us to be upset about dumb stuff. He wants us to deep-six our anger because he knows it's a bomb. He wants us to be focused and offended about everything. He wants to keep us angry because he knows if we are, that will disrupt us, it will divide us, and it will eventually destroy. But there's too much on the line that we can do that for. We can't afford to be derailed by anger. There are way too many people in northern Colorado that need to be reached. There are way too many people to serve. There are way too many generations and families to transform. There's way too many people that need to grow in their faith. There's way too many people that need the truth. There's way too many people that need the gospel, and we cannot let anger derail us from that. There's too much on the line that we get to be a part of. We get to be a part of. If you're angry that today there are tens of thousands of people right around us that are facing a Christless eternity, if you're angry about that, good. Don't lash out, lean in. Like, get involved in the mission that God has. Get involved in the vision God's given our church to serve, to protect, to give, to reach people. Man, if you trace church history, if you see pockets of revival or great awakenings that happen throughout church history, you can even see this in the book of Exodus and Ezekiel. There were three things that were happening whenever revival happened. Three things that were happening. Everybody was praying, everybody was serving, and everybody was giving. Common things that were happening when God just exploded and transformed things. We could be ground zero. I want LifeBridge to be ground zero. In fact, I was praying this on my way in this morning. God, let our church be ground zero for gospel transformation in northern Colorado. Let our anger about things that are wrong and unjust and sin that's destroying people and things, let's focus it on mission, on serving people, on reaching out, on sacrificially giving. There's too much on the line. We can actually use our anger to drive us to serve people, to bless people, to make things right, to be part of reconciliation. Not causing more problem and throwing gas on the fire. We don't want to do that. Man, we want to bring the fire to people, the fire that transforms. And just remember, like when you're upset, when you see all the junk in the world, People being taken advantage of or hurt, injustice throughout the world. When you see sin that's destroying people, remember that Jesus is making all things new. That means injustice in the world and sin in the world, it's all on the clock. It's got an expiration date. That should give us great peace and encouragement. We don't have to be controlled by anger because we know he wins and we know he's in control. So be controlled by the hope of the gospel and be controlled by the grace of Jesus Christ. And watch what happens. Let me pray for you. Father, thank you for being the example that you are. Jesus, you were mad, but you were mad about the right things and you acted in the right way and you weren't controlled by it. Would you help us be that church too? That we don't deep six our anger, that we don't get angry about petty things that Satan wants us to be angry about, that the world wants us to be angry about. Don't let division happen because of anger. Don't let disruption or destruction. Don't let us be derailed from what you're asking us as a church to do, and more importantly, who you're asking us to be. Let our church be a place of peace. When people walk in here, they can experience it. That what happens here and with all the families that are a part of our church and individuals, that there's peace and joy and there's selfless anger that comes out of love that just spreads through northern Colorado, and transformation starts right here. Let us be the example. If there's things that we need to confess that we're angry about or that we've sinned in our anger, give us the courage to confess that and repent to you. And let there be healing here. We love you. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.